Okay, we're on.
Oh, well, thank you for saying that. Now you just messed up the whole intro.
Oh, great. I'm sorry.
Hey, what would it be if we didn't screw up an intro? I mean, it wouldn't be a normal day if we didn't screw up an intro. Welcome, our fellow lovers of love, to yet another excursion through the stream of consciousness, through the river of tranquility, and on to the voyage of... Oh, man, I had a new one written and I forgot it. It's because I was writing a new one to do I gotta write these down. I gotta start working from scripts. This is embarrassing. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us tonight. It's actually probably a good topic about what is winning, because that intro surely was not winning. That was that might be our worst one yet. No, we shouldn't say that. There's probably some bad ones if I go back and relook. There's probably some very awful ones in there. Anyway, it's been one of these. I was gonna say, well, it's been one of those weeks, but it really hasn't. I've just been busy this week. It really hasn't been bad or good or indifferent. It's just been busy. But the definition of winning. What is the definition of winning? I mean, okay, look, today as we preparing for the show, Tom Brady, the winningest quarterback in NFL history, decides to retire at 40 years old, won 7 Super Bowls, all that kind of stuff. And in football, you can win, right? You can win a game of football. In fact, you can even win a season of football. But you actually can't win a career. I mean, you can say, did Tom Brady win at football? Well, there's a Hall of Fame full of people who won at football. So you can't really win at football. You can win a football game. You can win a season. A team can win a season. But how do you win at life? How do you win in business? How do you win in a relationship? In order for you to win in a relationship, the other person has to necessarily lose, right?
No.
The whole concept of winning. So if winning is your mindset, but even in business, how do you win? What, you're going to have the most sales? Well, okay, but what if somebody else is judging themselves by we have the best customer service or we give the best product? We don't actually care if we have the most sales. We're just going to focus on our little niche. And for them, that's winning. Never breaking their ethics is winning. We're able to feed our family without breaking our ethics. That's winning. For somebody else, having the number one customer service, that's winning. For somebody else, being innovative and game-changing, that's winning. For somebody else, it's the bottom of the balance sheet. That's winning. But those are all internal focused goals. You're not actually playing a game. In business and in life, the game is what? Business, life, relationships? Define win. You have a community organization and people come in and they go, right? It's what happens when you're part of these community organizations. And the question is, are they moving forward in their life? And if they are moving forward in their life, then you have done your job as a leader. And if they give you some inkling of credit or some inkling of respect for what you have done, then you've done your job. Far too many of us want to win. Win in life, win in politics, win in relationships, win in business, win what we really should consider is what is winning. What is the real goal? Is winning the game the goal? Or is having a peaceful life, having the life you dream of, that's the goal, whatever that is. Is that winning? Is it at 60 years old you're able to sit back and say, you know what, I've got, my children are on the right path. I've got grandchildren I get to love. I've got a little bit of money in the bank or a roof over my head or whatever it is that makes you comfortable. And is that winning? Because we have people who are chasing things, chasing material winnings for their entire lives, and they never reach that goal.
The goal always seems to be changing.
Because it does, because you're always changing. But if you set this hard goal, I'm going to win by having the most success. Success is defined by somebody else. You can never achieve it. And in fact, you can never achieve it because anytime you achieve success, you look for something else to do. You look for something else, some other hill to climb. Okay? Mountain climbers are never done climbing mountains. Just look for something harder. But not everybody wants to climb hard mountains. Some people want to sit on a beach and relax with their family. And to me, that's as much winning as anything else. All right. So, what have we got on tonight? So, actually, there's an interesting one on from psychologytoday.com, 6 reasons you can't win. Do you want to run through those real quick? But I want to go through the second one. I left a link in the things. It's the free ebook. Well, it's not even an ebook. It's a web book, I guess, of the unrevised vision of how to win friends and influence people. I actually linked to a specific link on how you can win an argument, and there's a trick to it. Only way you can win an argument is by not engaging in one. It's a long-winded thing, but it's actually one of the, read that section because it applies to tonight. But really, it's not a bad book to go back and read. It's not that long in terms of these kind of books. All right, so let's go over these 6 reasons you can't win.
6 reasons you can't win. An interior witness acts as an impartial judge of our shifting fortunes, tracking our wins and losses.
Well, yeah, that's what you win, you lost. And if you win too much, guess what happens? You change the rules of the game on yourself. You change how you judge yourself. So you can never actually win. That's the cruelness of your own psyche. The minute you start to get comfortable with yourself, you choose something else. Keeps us from getting stale.
Innately human.
Yeah. And I don't want to say innately human because
No, don't you
there
think?
there are those who just want to be. They don't want to strive for more. They're perfectly happy with having whatever they have. There's nothing wrong with that. Just think about how awful the world would be if everybody was striving for the same thing.
All type A's.
Yeah. Oh my God. Could you imagine a world where it's bad enough we're the 10, 15% or 20% or whatever the hell it is type A's. It's bad enough with those people running the world. Good God. Could you imagine everybody like that? This place would be unlivable. It'd be like New York City on steroids. God, I can't imagine. All right, so what's number 2? But yeah, you change the goal for yourself, and you trick yourself into fooling you're not making progress when you really are. Well, that's just not the trick. The trick is you're not aware that you're moving the goalposts, and so you think you're not making progress when you really are. That's actually the thing to be careful about. It's not that you're not making progress, it's that because you continually move the goalpost, you continually say, I'm still so far away from the goal. But what you forget is you've moved the damn goalpost so many times that you've forgotten that, oh yeah, I used to be way the hell back there, and now I've just moved the goalpost. I've actually crossed the goal line many times. It's not that I've moved the goalpost 6 times. I've actually crossed the goalpost 5 times. I'm on my 6th run at the goalpost, at the goal line. But we don't think of it that way. We think of it, I just haven't achieved my goal yet. No, you've already scored 6 touchdowns. Go back to the football reference. We've already scored 6 touchdowns. or 5 touchdowns. You're on your 6th one now. But we don't think of it that way. We think of it, we're still trying to get to the same initial goal when it's not reality. But, it's our immediate focus predator brain. Yeah, what's in front of you is what it is. Evolution's a pain in the butt. It really is. All right, what's next?
As individuals, our point of view is inseparable from our personal history. Our sight is necessarily partial, our beliefs unavoidably partisan.
Yeah, and even those who work hard to try to not be partisan, who try to step outside themselves, how do you know? The most self-aware people go, I can try to be self-aware. I can try to step outside and see a different perspective, but how do I know I'm actually being effective at it? You don't know. There's no way to know. You can just try. It's the effort. There's honor in the effort. It's not actually, that's one of those things where success isn't necessarily defined by necessarily the outcome. The success is defined by your willingness to try. Interesting. Okay, what do we got?
Okay, you've already covered this one. Number 3, when we think we've won, nature moves the goalposts.
Yeah, and nature, us, whatever you want to call it, it's just what we do. All right, so go ahead to the next one.
Number 4, dreams shatter on the rocks of reality. Imagination runs aground on the shoals of practicality.
Oh, this is the one, yes, where you think up of a conversation. The easiest way is you think of a conversation is going to go some way, right up until you have to actually have that conversation with another person because they have a different perspective than you think they're going to, and then your whole conversation goes. The conversation you had in your head is completely irrelevant because that's not the conversation the other person wants to have. You have the conversation you want to have in your head. You don't have the conversation they want to have in their head. Or you think you're going to have the conversation they want in their head, and not. One of the good ways to explain this is there's a lot of kids who want to discuss with their parents their complicated sexuality, and in some cases it's true their parents won't take it well, and so they have legitimate issues. But in other cases, their parents are perfectly open. There's no reason for them to think so. But yet there's part of them, they have that conversation in their head is not real. It's not based upon reality. And so when they finally get up, they've made it this whole big thing and their family goes, yeah, we know. We've always known. It's not a big deal. Their whole worldview is still kind of shaken. Because they didn't get the response they were expecting. They were either expecting this catastrophic response or they're expecting this, oh my God, we didn't understand, this whole big loving, and I'm going, yeah. And you get this kind of shrug of the shoulders, yeah, and it's not a big deal. It's like saying you like blue. We don't, okay. And it still can have that kind of same ground shaking effect, even though it's not a negative response. It's actually a positive response. If you really think about it, that's the kind of response you actually want, where it's not okay, right? Because to make a big deal out of it makes it more. Because you wouldn't make a big deal out of it if someone come up and told you, hey, Dad, I like girls. Okay, and if someone come up to you and says, hey, Dad, I like boys. Okay, that should be the response. Whatever it is. And so, but they've created this conversation in their head. And so when that conversation doesn't happen, it can actually fracture the ground that they thought they were standing on. And with young people, because that ground they're standing on is so unsolid, it's sand anyway, because they have a misperception of the reality of the world. That's why it's so devastating for them when it happens. They'd lack the solid foundation that the rest of us do, built over time. Okay, what's next? We got one more?
Two more.
Okay.
We desire the eternal, but we are bound in time. Death exempts no one. Extinction annuls whole species and likely won't cut human beings any slack.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we've already kind of covered the basics philosophically repeatedly. So I'll just be repeating myself if I dive into that one. So that it? That's the last one?
Last one. The heart, formerly the seat of the soul, is now seen as a pump made of muscle. The same unsentimental methodology is applicable to the brain. Not only will humans figure out how it works, they'll build better ones.
No, they won't. Because we still don't know why our body works.
We're on course to design beings who will supersede us, hoisted by our own petard.
No, we won't. That just won't happen. Because we still don't understand how this thing works. And we never really will. But that's a deeper philosophical question, which actually brings us to the next one, which is it's just something to kind of sit there and contemplate. Is you can't win a staring contest with yourself, because you will always blame. It's just an interesting concept. Sit there and think about why you can't win a staring contest with yourself. It's like contemplating time. Yeah. But the real question is, why would you get into a staring contest with yourself? Why are you competing with yourself? In fact, we use that term competition a lot when we really don't mean it. We think we mean it, but we really don't. This last week was school choice week. And a lot of people who are arguing for school choice, you talk about schools need competition. They need to be, schools that don't do well, need to have some kind of motivation to change, to attract different students. But competition's the wrong way to look at it. We need different schools to serve students with different needs. That's just a diversification of education. That's not actually competition. We don't need our schools to compete with each other. We just need diversification of schools. We need schools for people whose parents work at off hours, so the schools function for them instead of us functioning around the school. We need schools that function for kids with anxiety disorders. So maybe they're hybrid options. So you go to school a couple times a week for help when you need it. You can do work at home. Other kids need that more one-on-one attention. Other kids perfectly fine in traditional schools. Some people need the mix, like the old schoolhouse days where you would mix the classes. Some people actually thrive in that kind of environment. Some teachers actually thrive in that kind of environment. But the desire to, I don't always call it win, but it is. It's winning. We put our kids into a race. Starting from age 4 now, we stick them into school and we say, there's this goal line, there's this finish line. If you don't have all these things done by then, you're a failure. But it doesn't matter if they're done at 16, 17, 18, 19. Does it actually matter? They're going to be alive 80 years. It's not a race. We grade our students A, B, C, D like they're pieces of meat. And we tell them to compete with each other instead of learn from each other, instead of work with each other. It's one thing to compete with each other on a football field, but you know what happens at the end of a football game? They go out there, they shake hands, they give hugs to their friends. Because when the game is over, life begins. And that's what they actually understand, probably better than the rest of us do. So I don't know, my love. It's a pretty heavy thing. Because we're essentially trained from such a young age to win. But win at what? And at what cost? We don't talk about that. You know, winning a baseball game, winning a basketball game, winning checkers. You know? Winning Monopoly.
I always win at Monopoly.
You are the worst person to play games with. But but
You just don't like the victory dance.
there are bad losers and there are bad winners. You are the definition of a bad winner.
You just can't take it.
But anyway, get into a mind of Lubby over there. But you can win at those games. But the end, you put them away, and you go on with your life. You can't win a relationship. We can't win in our relationship. Our relationship wins by peace and prosperity. That's how our relationship
Well, I
is.
see it as a win-win. Nobody has to lose.
But if there's two winners, then you're not playing a game.
Well, no, it's not a game.
Then we're not winning.
It's high stakes.
But we're not playing a game. You can't win if you're not playing. What we're doing is working on our relationship on a continual basis, and we are succeeding at that.
I swear.
That's not winning. That's just succeeding currently.
It's-
This is currently succeeding.
It's currently succeeding. I like that instead of winning. Currently succeeding.
Could we have our ups and downs like anybody else?
Well, yeah.
But in the grand scheme of things, we're currently succeeding. There's no we're not fighting. There's no reason to win, so we don't fight. Because one of the reasons we don't fight is because we don't try to win.
We rarely fight. What?
Even our fights aren't fights. They're just misunderstandings that get emotional. That's really all they are. And they don't last long because neither one of us can take it. And so
Well, we listen and we try and understand the other person's point of view, because usually there's 8 times out of 10 there's a misunderstanding there. Oh, I didn't know you meant that.
it's a misunderstanding. Yeah, or we're both on edge or something, and so it's stuff that normally wouldn't hit so hard hits a little harder than normal, and you get a couple of those things all kind of rounded up. That's what it happens for us, is when a handful of things hit at one time. And so neither one of us are on top of our game, and then we end up forcing to try to work on a website when I can't see and you're trying to do something technical. It's bad juju. You know, I'm frustrated because I should be able to do something easily. You know, so you're trying to help me do something that I'm already frustrated with. It makes you frustrated to begin with,
And I'm scared, and I always screw it up.
and so it's not even an argument at that point. We're not fighting at that point. It's just we're just frustrated, and not even necessarily frustrated at each other, but it comes out at each other, right? Because what do you do when you're frustrated? You take it out on the person closest to you. And then you gotta go sheepishly apologize. And so, you know, but that's what happens. That's called life. And is that winning, losing? No, that's just life. Success is when you get through those things and can laugh about it 10 minutes later. That's success. Okay.
Can we look at this other article, this last one? You can't win an argument. this man was at a party, and
Which one?
this other dinner guest made a point, and he made a quote, and he misquoted. And the first dinner guest corrected him, and they got into a bit of an argument about it. And the other person, the other guest was a stately gentleman on his other side, and they happened to be going home together. And he asked him at the end of the evening, "Why did you have to prove to a man he is wrong? What is going to make him like you? Why not let him save his face? He didn't ask for your opinion. He didn't want it. Why argue with him? Always avoid the acute angle." I like that.
Yeah, there's no point in arguing. Well, some people, for whatever reason, can't let those kind of things slide. But they're wrong. So, it's like arguing with a flat earth person, right? There's lots of people who like to argue with flat earth people. And I have never argued with. I used to drive Uber and Lyft, and occasionally you'd get a flat earth person in there, and you'd have a conversation with them, and they'd always tip me very well because I'd sit there and listen politely. I never agreed with them, but I never, dissed them either. Because these aren't people who are working at NASA. These aren't people who are working at SpaceX or Google. So they're not interfering with the movement forward of scientific knowledge, right? So what? So they got some people who believe it's a flat Earth. There's lots of people who believe all kinds of goofy things, but they're not hurting anybody. They're not preventing science from moving forward. They're not doing anything. And in fact, the people who argue with them give them far more power and credibility than they would have if you just ignored them and left them alone and said, "That's interesting," and moved on about your day. There's no reason to argue with them and be mean. But a lot of people just, either they want to prove themselves right, or they're so wrong that they figure, hey, it gives me moral authority to be mean. And a lot of people like that moral authority to be mean. And so if you do that, I think that's what you should probably spend some time in. If you ever want to get a staring contest with yourself, spend in the mirror and spend some time, why am I being needlessly mean to people? For all those who get into arguments on social media, ask yourself, why the need? That need isn't them, it's in you. That need to argue. Not that you don't like I do. I'll sit there and I'll make my point. And if someone has a reply that missed my point, I may go in and give them a clarification, but I never argue. It's not, I don't have the need to win the argument, to win the discussion. My only desire is to express my point. People can hear it or not. That's not, my desire isn't to win. Okay. So we are on to our questions. Wow, we actually took longer to get through those than I thought we were. Okay, so. All right, so I'm going to skip down while Lubby's gone. We'll catch one that's out of order because we'll go to some of these Uber things. Is tip baiting for food delivery drivers? Or what is tip baiting for food delivery drivers? Well, tip baiting is when, as a food app delivery customer, will put in a big tip so their order will get picked up quicker and then delivered, and then after it's delivered, they will adjust the tip to a lower or remove the tip at all. And so it's a really crappy thing to do to try to increase your service time. And one of the things, when I did delivery services, I always assumed I wasn't getting tips. And so I was never disappointed with not. And if you do that, at the end of the day, these things tend to balance out. But doing that's a dick move, and don't do it. It's just not. It's just being a dick. And there's no other ways to deal with that. I mean, why would you actually want to do that? All right, here's another Uber one. Uber driver stopped to get gas. How should I rate the ride? Well, as an Uber Lyft driver, when I was doing that, A, you never want to stop and get gas with a customer in it. That is not a planned stop. What it meant was he had no choice, or it was just made the most sense. He had a stop off near you, and to go, you would have had to wait longer for him to go get gas and come back. So getting gas, you know, as an Uber driver, you don't want to get gas as in a customer is in the car. It's not something you want to do. But on rare occasions, it's what makes sense. And, you know, while it's not something you would expect to get in a taxi, Ubers and Lyfts aren't taxis. I mean, not yet anyway. They're not employees of the company. They're independent contractors. You're literally copping a ride in your neighbor's car, and he's giving you a lift down the street. That's what's happening. And sometimes, on a rare occasion, you know, they'll have to stop for gas because it makes the most sense. Would you rather run out of gas? You know, you want to give them a 4-star thing, and that's fine. But, you know, a little empathy, I would think. You got picked up faster because this driver decided to pick you up before he got gas. Because if it wasn't you, if it wasn't him, it would have been somebody else that was farther away. So you would have had to wait longer. So you're either going to wait longer where you were at, or you're going to wait longer in the comfortable car at the gas station for a couple of minutes. You don't want to do it, so it's just, you know. So we covered the Uber question.
Gotcha. Okay, questions. We have unruly parents tonight. This is just, some of this stuff is frightening.
Well, actually enough, they kind of come back to that winning mindset, which is kind of why I included them today, which is kind of how I got to the winning.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Why is my daughter disobeying me? My daughter is 23 and is an engineer. The day she got the degree, she fled, and we don't know her exact address. She blames me for differentiating between her and her brother and some other stupid childhood things. Way to have empathy.
I was going, how long can Lubby not actually go on a rant? This is gonna be Lubby's first rant. I was gonna wonder on this one. You gotta rant.
I wouldn't talk to you either.
Yeah, why is my daughter disobeying me? Okay, she's 23. Well, why the hell are you trying to tell her what to do? She's an engineer. She's a highly educated adult. Why the fuck do you think? Sorry, I don't usually cuss. But why the hell do you think that?
I want to know why this mother didn't ask for counseling so they could get to a meeting of the hearts.
And then the day she fled, but this is the thing, she still hasn't reflected on herself that I've done something wrong. You've done something wrong. And she blames me for disrespect and other stupid childhood things. Childhood things build a foundation for the rest of your life. None of them are stupid. You may misperceive things, and that happens all the time. But these things build the foundations from which the rest of your life is built on. And these are things we don't understand as young parents. We just don't. You don't understand until later on. You don't understand until you're raising teenagers. Oh, crap. You know, I did things wrong 10 years ago. That's the kind of things that happen. But, you know, let's be honest. You did some few things right. She's a fully functional 23-year-old engineer and was smart and aware enough to get the hell out of a toxic relationship with her parents. So they did a few things right, except whatever you did right was laced with something wrong that was so toxic that she just ran. You literally used the word fled. She fled from you. People don't flee from things. that give them comfort? Think about that. Start figuring out why. And then you can figure out, you know why she left. You know why she fled. You just have to admit it to yourself. Okay.
Why do dads push daughters away? My dad used to always ask me for hugs and text me goodnight when he was on trips or had to work. But I have noticed he doesn't do that anymore. I'm 18, but he stopped like a year and a half ago, and I don't know why. Oh, sweet thing. Ask him.
Well, because you're okay, this is the difference between dads and moms. That's what dads do. The more of an adult you become, the less guidance they give you. Because the less guidance you need. It's actually, in a strange way, it means he's trusts you. Now, we don't understand this as men, because most of us don't spend enough time thinking about why we do these things, instinctively do these things. But that's what's actually happening. Is because your whole life has been about how much guidance. Your whole childhood has been about how much guidance do I give? Where are the guardrails? How do I give? What's that between protecting you and allowing you enough freedom so you can potentially get hurt? Because you don't learn if you're not kind of on the edge, right? You have to know where the edge is. If you don't learn where the edge is, it's a weird thing. Parenthood is a weird thing. And there's no easy task. But here's the thing. You can text him goodnight. It's a two-way relationship. If you want to maintain that relationship, you can maintain it yourself. And just text him. Hey, Dad, I miss texting you goodnight. So, goodnight. You do that a few times, he'll start texting you back. He's actually giving you freedom, which is what most teenagers want. And what's lovely is you want to maintain those connections, which is great. It's going to take a little work on both of you. You're an adult now. You have to do your side. And if he's a loving father, and he seems to be, it'll be okay. Okay. Like you said, just talk to him. And talk to him over text. If you want to build the fact that texting his relationship is what, then do it over text. It's perfectly fine. It will rebuild that texting relationship you seem to have liked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My daughter is 15 watching cartoons. How can I tell her it's for little kids? She said she misses her childhood. Dude, I'm 60. I miss my childhood. I watched Toy Story today.
Well, not all cartoons are actually for kids. There's a lot of teenage cartoons that are designed for teenagers. Just because they look like a cartoon doesn't mean it's designed for kids. Art is a glorious thing. But there's also nothing wrong with mindless entertainment. A little bubble gum, a little... God, you know how hard it is to be a teenager, especially in these last couple of years? The fact that she's sitting there going, God, I wish life was simpler. I wish I was back in the days where all I had to worry about was what was on Saturday morning cartoons and if my cereal got soggy. Jesus Christ, I wish I could do that. Let her be. Pay attention. Make sure it doesn't become like a depression problem. Make sure there's not something more than just kind of normal teenage thing. But let her be. Let her work through it. It's one of those things. Sometimes it's just a phase. It's just a phase. Or they're really into anime or cartoons or whatever it is. So what? Maybe she'll work for Disney as a cartoon artist later on. You never know. Okay.
I make my daughter babysit her little...
You missed one.
Did I? Oh, I'm a senior in high school. I have a 1.27 GPA. What schools can I apply to? I have done No curricular, and I haven't had a job, but I babysat every other week for the past month.
Well, you can always go to community college and or online schools. They'll almost always take you. I mean, if you pass the test. But the question is, what makes you think you're ready to be a student in a college? You got a 1.7 GPA. School, as currently structured, clearly isn't your thing. I'm not saying you're dumb. I'm not saying you're not capable. I'm saying school as structured isn't structured for you. So just going from one school to the next isn't probably the best plan. Now, maybe finding a school that works for you would be. Maybe you go to one of those funky liberal arts schools somewhere, that take anybody with enough cash. And since you can get student loans, you can have cash, government loans, Pell Grants, and anyway, since you can push those kind of things together. There are those kind of schools. And maybe that might suit your needs better, Those kind of non-traditional colleges. Or maybe an online school. Or maybe just getting a job and going to work for a couple of years. Learn some discipline. Figure out what you actually want to do. Figure what you want to study. Find some direction first. Because, do you really want to waste your time and the college resources and money? I mean, now's the time for an inexperienced person to go off into the workforce. It just is. Getting on that bottom rung is easy right now, in most places. And schools will always be there. There's nothing wrong with taking a couple years, kind of finding yourself, and then going back to school.
I did.
Life's not a race. Life's not a race. Okay.
I make my daughter babysit her little siblings on weekends while I'm at work. I don't let her go out or have anyone over during this time, and she complains about it. What should I do? Let her have a life?
Yeah, now look, I can understand that she has to babysit her siblings during the week. That kind of happens. But what is her reward? Her complaint is likely that, it's sad enough that she has to lose her weekends while you're working, okay? But that happens in families. But when they do that, they're usually rewarded with something, even if it's not cash. It's freedom, responsibility, extra responsibilities. With extra responsibilities come extra rewards, extra freedoms, extra something. Something. And so, if you're just expecting her to watch her siblings and she's not getting anything out of it other than losing what time she has with her friends and what freedom she has, of course she's going to be mad. So, you're going to have to figure that out. You may have to relax the rules. You may say, okay, one of these three people can come over. Maybe make it a small list. And give her some more freedoms during the week to go over to her friend's house or something. Whatever it is. She's becoming an adult. You have to start to treat her like one. Okay.
My daughter recently dyed part of her hair blue without asking me first, so I cut it short. Then she dyed her hair again yesterday, again without asking me. Should I punish her or not let her go out with her friends? What's the matter with you?
So, now, clearly this thing has started before this event. This is the power struggle that predates the hair color, right? These things don't happen from nothing. All right, this is a power struggle that is kind of ongoing. It's likely a teenager, and I get it. It's kind of annoying to walk around with a teenager with bright blue hair. but it's their hair.
My rule is as long as you're taking care of it and it's not a rat's nest, what do I care?
Sure. And then you went and cut her hair.
You cut her hair?
Yeah, and now you've kind of violated her personal body, her personal space, and she rightly feels violated. And so, well, of course she was going to go dye the rest of her hair. But of course she was. You literally set up a condition where there was literally nothing else was going to happen. You couldn't have gone, well, that's ugly, and just left it at that. One of the things I always, when I tried to raise my kids, who I didn't have to deal with much rebellion from my children. That's because I didn't actually give them a lot to rebel from. They had a wide sandbox, proverbial sandbox to play in, and you stepped outside the sandbox, and the hand of God was going to come down on you like
that's right,
like nothing you've ever seen before. I will ruin your life, and imagine that. They played within the sandbox.
It was a big sandbox. I made a big sandbox.
Yeah, but you step outside the sandbox, and it's the thing. But their hair is theirs, and they're becoming adults. And again, these kids are having such a hard time today. They're trying to express themselves in a world that tells them they can express themselves freely, but also tells them they can't. And how are you supposed to do that? They're struggling. And instead of helping them struggle through this, you're punishing them for struggling through this. It's just the wrong approach. And I don't like to say that. I don't like to say this is a wrong approach, because I don't know what necessarily the right approach is, but this is the wrong approach. You're escalating instead of de-escalating. It's her hair. Why are you punishing her? Having to look stupid is going to be punishment enough. Okay.
My daughter has been crying because no one asked her to the prom. What should I do? Oh, that's so sad.
And the thing is, there's almost nothing you can do. I mean, one is you could ask her to ask somebody. There's likely some anxious kid would love to go on a date for the prom that doesn't have one and is too scared to ask anybody.
Pick the geek. He'll show you a good time. He'll make you laugh.
And he won't try to get into your pants because he'll be too scared. Just say it. But, yeah. I mean, yes, it is sad and crushing, but it's also something you can control. But there's also another part of it. There could be a lack of socialization skills. Your daughter hasn't developed socialization skills, and so, for whatever reason, no one's asked her. Because, let's be honest, even not attractive people get asked to the dance if they have a good personality. If people are attracted to their personality, we've all seen it. And so some people just, for whatever reason, never learned how to get along well in groups. But that's a solvable problem. Start with like YouTube, Charisma on Command. Go through those kind of, like I said, it's a good place to start. And, start learning how to start helping your daughter learn the skills so this kind of thing doesn't happen. That's because, or if it does happen, she's confident enough to solve the problem on her own and just ask somebody. It's a modern world. There's no reason to wait for somebody to ask you. Now, my prom, I was washing dishes in the restaurant for people who were going to the prom in the restaurant. So, I was working on my prom. So I really can't say very much.
We went to Kent State.
Oh.
It was on campus.
Ah. All right. So what's next?
Uh, if your child, 5, cries when it's their older sibling's birthday and their sibling open presents, should you also buy them presents to open on that day so they feel even?
No.
No.
They get their presents on their 6th, like everybody else. That's what makes it special. If you give them presents on everybody's birthday, then you're always, it's not, there's nothing. And 2, you cannot reward that kind of, I'm going to throw a temper tantrum because I don't get what I want, so I'm going to get what I want. Hey, that's effective. I'm going to throw a temper tantrum all the time I want something. You're setting yourself up on a very bad path. You have to help teach this child that they're not always going to get what they want. And sometimes it's other people's birthday.
It's not your turn.
Yeah. You're not always
You get a turn. You'll have a turn, but not today.
There's a saying I used to tell my children. It's good to want things. Builds character when you don't get it. And I meant that as a truth. Teaches you how to...
I know, you still say it to me sometimes.
Yeah, but I had to start with you later, much, much later in life. It's like, man, trying to...
I still don't know what that means.
Yeah. Trust me, I know. All right. So what's this?
My husband has a beach house that I helped remodel and decorate. He cannot say no to his family. Am I unreasonable to be upset that in-laws take friends there and want to use our bedroom too like it is their house? I wouldn't like it either, but he's not going to say no to his family. You just said that.
Well, and there's the way it's phrased.
It's his beach house.
Yeah, so it makes it think like that house existed before she became the wife.
Yes.
And so the custom pre-exists the wife. So when you married in, you should have understood that this was a custom and you accepted it as part of the deal. He bought the beach house so he could probably share it with his friends and family. That's why he bought the damn thing. If he was only going to buy the beach house so he was only going to be the one to use it, he probably wouldn't have bought it. He'd just rent one when he wants to go. He bought the beach house because he wants to share it with people he cares about. Respect that. If the bed thing worries about you, get one of those sheet covers to put in a closet somewhere, and when you go there, put the extra cover on, the extra padding. So you've got a nice few inches between the things. Don't worry about it. You sleep in hotels, don't you? These are friends and family. Have a bit, think about think about the gift he's actually giving to his friends and family. People who otherwise couldn't afford this kind of lifestyle. Think about that. You're not even there. It's not like they're taking up a time when you're there. You just don't like it. It's literally all in your head. I think the person needs to spend some time with themselves, kind of rethink their strategy. Okay.
I got a 3.0 GPA in freshman year, and my parents tell me I'm going to fail in life because of this. Is this true? This poor little thing. I wish I would have had a 3.0 GPA.
Yeah, we got this other guy who's got 1.27. What college can I go to? I got a 3.0. I'm a big failure. My good Lord. What are we doing to these poor kids? And it doesn't matter if it's a freshman in high school or a freshman in college. No, your GPA is not going to be relevant to anything except maybe if you want to get into an elite college. That's it. If you want to get into California, if you're in California and you're a California resident, you can get into a state college if there's room. community colleges are free. Online schools don't care. The only thing that cares about GPAs are elite schools. And quite frankly, elite schools are slow, expensive, and, you know,
Oh, say it.
I'm not going to. I'm trying to be nice.
Okay, all right.
Just saying. They're not as elite as they like to think. Your local state college is just as good as some elite, over expensive school. So.
Excuse me.
Okay, we got a
Okay,
couple more.
you did the Uber one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, here's one for you. I accidentally left my phone plugged in for almost 5 hours after it was charged 100%. Will that harm the battery life even if I don't do this once again? It happened for the very first time.
No.
I do that all the time. I leave it leave it plugged in overnight.
Well, in the old days, it would make a difference. It actually could harm the batteries in the old days. But in modern phones, no, it's not going to make a difference. They stop charging and they switch to what's called a trickle mode. And no, the phones are smart enough nowadays where it doesn't do anything. It's not really relevant. I mean, theoretically, if you wanted to if you wanted to maximize your battery life, you would keep it between 70% and 30% charged and only charge it when it got down to 30% and only charge it up to 70%. And if you keep it right in that range, that would be that would maximize your battery life. But who the hell wants to do that? Nobody. So just plug it in and off as you want. You're not going to notice the battery degradation notice from the normal one anyway. Your regular use and normal use and the theoretical the amount of a pain in the butt it is to the theoretically, you just plug the damn thing in. It's not going to explode. What you do want to be careful of is don't have it plugged in and then fall asleep on it. Because that can make it over hot, and then you can get fired. And that's what you want to be careful of. That's the real danger. It's not damaging the battery; it's the heat. Okay.
Why are some new hires not showing up for the first day of work and ghosting their employers?
Because they got a better job, and we haven't taught these young kids how to deal with conflict. You just don't know. Because they think it's going to be conflict, but they don't really know how to call up and say, hey, I'm sorry, I told you that I was going to, but this guy offered me a better position, and, it'd be dumb for me not to take it. So I apologize. Which is what you should do. And that's the right thing to do. But we don't teach kids to do the right thing. We teach them to take the easy way out. So, okay, let's do this. Let's see if we can get a couple more. And we might go over a few minutes late tonight.
Can I sue Walmart for allowing me to leave their store during a tornado warning? My car was flipped over. I wasn't hurt, but can I sue for mental trauma?
No.
No.
But the rest of us should sue you for even thinking about it. What are they supposed to do? You can't leave the store because there's a tornado outside, and then what? If the tornado hit the store and would you sue them for emotional trauma? Yes, you would. So you essentially you want Walmart to be responsible for what? Tornadoes. Well, you have insurance to pay for the car. You didn't get hurt. Consider yourself lucky. What the hell's wrong with you? Why are you looking for compensation from somebody else? You survived a fucking tornado. Consider yourself goddamn lucky. Count your blessings. Good God Almighty. The world we live in these days. Okay.
My manager emails me and said he made a mistake on an offer letter regarding the salary and decided to cut my wage. I even confirmed the numbers with him via email before signing the offer. Is this legal? It's already 3 weeks since I started.
Well, is it legal for him to say we're going to lower your salary? Yes, but it's also legal for you to say, well, then I'm either going to renegotiating the terms of my employment because you've renegotiated the terms of my employment, or I'm walking. In my case, I'd walk. You just leave. I'm quitting. You guys are a scammer. Now you might want to report them to the better, not the better spirit, the employee commission thing, because they're probably doing something else scammy. But that in and of itself is probably not illegal, but it is very unethical, and you would want to go. I mean, unless it was a genuine mistake and they're seriously overpaying you for the tasks you're doing. I mean, it could be a mistake. And if that's the particular case and you know that, then come on now. Be realistic. But if they've padded the offer and then pulled it back, that's slimy. Get the hell out. Because what else are they slimy doing? If they're willing to treat their employees like that, what else are they willing to do? So, okay, and I did the delivery driver one. So we got one more, the last one.
I've applied to over 100 jobs and haven't gotten past an interview. What could I be doing wrong?
Well, it's probably something in the interview. And go to YouTube. Go to something like the Charisma on Command or interviewing tips. What's that? Life After Layoff is another guy I listen to for these kind of things. And, watch some of these videos. That's a place to start. Start with practice interviews. Hopefully find some people who've given interviews and have them do practice interviews for you, because you're likely sending improper signals. There's something wrong if you're making it to interviews and still not getting hired, then it's something in your interview skills. The nice thing about that is that can be fixed.
Yeah.
That's a problem. That's a fixable problem. If it's your interview skills, that's a freaking fixable problem, because anything can be dealt with once you know what it is. Right? Even if you have to answer uncomfortable questions, once you figure out how to answer them, then they can be dealt with. It's just, if you haven't sat down, okay, how am I going to answer these uncomfortable questions that come up? Like, hey, you've been out of work for 4 years. What have you been doing? Right? How do you answer that question? And the thing is, they don't actually care about the answer. I mean, they care that how you answer the question. We talk about sometimes it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And that's what we mean. Right? It's not the specifics of the answer. It's that they just want to know what was happening. Are you a responsible human being, or were you, or were you doing smash and grabs and selling stuff on eBay? That's what they want to know. So if you're going, I was, I tried. You look like you're trying to make up a story. Then you're not going to get your. Then even if you're being honest, you're sending the wrong signals. So practice. Get some tips, get some practice, and just keep plugging away. I personally find, the job search process to be dehumanizing, and so I can get the soul-sucking, crushing thing of it, 100 when you're just not getting responses, and it feels personal, especially in this environment. Now, there's a handful of cities that there's a glut of workers. It's not, there's not a worker shortage, it's just the other way around. So depending upon your location, you could simply just be that there's, better candidates. But my guess is you've got an interview skill problem. That can be solved. That can be solved. And so can the attempt at winning. You don't have to try to win at life. You don't have to try to win in your relationships. You change your focus. You think about what success is. Define success. And you work towards that. You move towards that. You crawl towards that if necessary. That is how you win. When the life is over. When you're at your funeral and all those people are saying things about you, are they saying good things? Or is the building empty? Yeah. Maybe that's how you win. With me and Lubby, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Join us next week. Max is back. We're gonna talk. Wait, hold on a second. Max Gutman is back. We're gonna talk relationships and mental health, getting through relationships and mental health. There's got a book out, and I should have actually done some set up some things, but man, I was busy the last few days. So we'll get some of that stuff out tonight, or this week. And so join us next week with Max, and we'll talk relationships, get you prepared for Valentine's Day. And from me and Lubby, I want to thank you for joining us. And please remember to love everybody.
Good night.